All right, welcome back and many thanks for staying with us. My name is Romeo Bazuka, and of course this is Morning at NTV, that #1 platform that is geared towards acquainting you with information that you only need to conquer your day, conquer your week, and conquer your careers. You have that big masterpiece or big master plan that has been, in the works, but then the ideas are dogging your ability to come up with those ideas. Please also grab yourself a coffee. Besides watching Morning at NTV, grab yourself a cup of Inspire Africa coffee. It will go a long way in resuscitating your body's creative processes in that regard, and you'll be able to nail that business deal in that regard. And also for those students and the learners, as we wait for the full reopening in January of 2022, you see that app right there, YouLesson. It is that app. You can just go and download it. You'll be able to learn on your own. You do not need a physical teacher in your midst. You just need internet, a few of the bundles to be able to maximize on the power of the internet, courtesy of the YouLesson app. And it's against that background that Morning at NTV would like to call on to the government to scrap the 12% tax on data so that all learners can verifiably get onto this sphere of continued learning, maximizing on the power of the internet. That aside, we have so many people that are clamoring for the services that are being birthed on the internet. 5.2 billion people out of the 7.9 billion people who roam this earth are connected. It is only Africa that is lagging behind. But even those who get online suffer some kind of online harassment. For the men, I can use the word "sir." For the women, it's always bad news. They're suffering a lot of harassment, and it's not always being levied on what kind of work they do. People will not be interrogating or criticizing your journalistic work as a female. They're going to be interrogating you as a person. They'll be attacking your sexuality or your gender. That's how bad the situation is. For the men, the situation is a little bit different. So online harassment, that is a subject we'd like to have with Peace Oliver Amoge. Peace Oliver Amoge, she is the Executive Director for Women of Uganda Network, and would like to know what needs to be done to do away with online harassment that is dampening the resolve of the female journalists to actually ably execute their constitutional mandate. A very good morning, Peace Oliver Amoge. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Romeo.
How is Women of Uganda Network? What do you do, and when was it, birthed in this regard?
So my name is Peace Oliver Amoge, and
Indeed.
I work for Women of Uganda Network as the Executive Director. And Women of Uganda Network, or WOUGNET, was birthed in 2000, May 2000, so we're about 21 years old.
I see.
And we work, we promote women's rights online, so we envision a society that women and girls are enabled to use information and communications technology, if I may say ICTs, to tackle issues of sustainable development. So we do a lot of research on issues of internet governance and gender usage. We also advocate for policies that are gender responsive. And we also do a lot of initiatives that tackle some of these issues that come up that affect women's use of ICTs.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And of course, as a feminist myself, so many people find it hard to believe for a gentleman being a feminist. But of course, as a feminist myself and a big champion for female rights in that regard, I've been actually working within the covers, within the dark spaces to ensure that these rights are actually realized. But on the internet, even as the gentleman, we suffer some kind of online harassment. I remember during the age limit debate, yes, there was a lot of criticism. We were actually right there working so hard to get up the pointers to send to the parliamentarians in turn, so that they could actually fight for us as the citizens, so that Article 102B is not tweaked in that regard. Another feat that we lost in that regard. But then I suffered a lot of abuse. I suffered a lot of intimidation. I had to self-censure myself and get off the internet from 2017 all the way to 2019. For 2 good years, I stayed off. And I was like, you know what? I'm getting off of this toxic space, and I'm going to focus on myself. So as a gentleman, if I was this affected, what about the females who are being attacked on their sexuality and their gender? How dire is this situation of online harassment here in Uganda and abroad?
Thank you. And it's nice that you mentioned that you have experienced it. It's really very much on the increase, and COVID-19 pandemic laid bare this, because so many people came online, and then so many people were looking out for information about COVID, the effects, how they could keep safe, and then that meant that everybody was coming to the media. Anyone who cared about getting facts, who cared about getting authentic information was coming on the media. So that meant that you, the media, had to do your best to give us the information.
Indeed.
So the online platforms was really awash with a lot of information, and everybody was coming to the online space. And the same way, just to mention that the online space really mirrors the offline space. There's a very thin line. So we saw a lot of physical violence, and that is the same way that there was a lot of violence online, there was a lot of harassment online. And to specifically really look at the female journalists, they're affected disappropriately because of their gender. So everyone comes online, and every time, even when they speak about something else, someone pushes it around the gender and starts to, you know, harass them.
And so
exactly,
forth. I mean, she's talking about education or human rights violations, but then the commenters are going to now focus on her sexuality or gender. You're too fat, you're too small, you're too light-skinned, you're too dark, you're bleaching and so forth. I see. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that we saw a lot of that coming up, but it's not only in Uganda. It's really a global thing. If you look at a report, a report done by UNESCO in 2020, it interviewed over 1,200 female journalists, and over 73% of them said that they experience online violence. And it's the same way in Uganda. WOUGNET, in this initiative, we've been working with female journalists together with the Action Agent Fund. We worked with female journalists and we brought them together. We had a couple of interactions, we had conferences and workshops, and many of them really talked to share their experience of having online harassment, and some of them really, it affected them very badly. You know, they kept on pushing, and some went back. They had to get off the online space, which is not a good thing.
Indeed,
you know, to see more.
Exactly.
And as women of Uganda Network, we want to see more women come online. We want to see more women use the online platforms. But because of this harassment, some of them are that go into self-censorship. That means they are not freely expressing themselves. They're already discriminated. So we saw a lot of that happening. And also we saw a lot of people going into trauma, mental health, you know. So also we had some sessions to discuss mental health. And I think also, just to mention some of the things that we revealed to really show you how much this is bad, is that the fact, even if so many of them talked about them experiencing online harassment, very few of them are reporting. So very few female journalists are reporting, or not only female journalists, even media workers who are female. We really looked at this. So many of them are not reporting these cases. So this is really a big problem. So someone is dying inside, or dying in their room, dying in their corners, with all these harassments going on. And then remember, you have your phone everywhere, you have your computer, so you can still read these comments, be affected by this. And then sometimes it starts as an online thing, and then it goes to the physical. Someone looks out for you, starts to stalk you physically, starts to dox you, starts to, you know, harass you, sexually harassing you. So yes, it is a big thing.
And so forth.
Exactly.
But of course, I could understand the urgency, the severity, you know, of this problem when I actually read the literature aligned with this problem, online harassment. I was reading the UNESCO reports and so forth, Washington Post, about how dire the situation is all over the world. But then, yes, you are telling us how dire the problem is, how big it is. But here in Uganda, especially the newsrooms right here locally, they are not taking on this problem, you know, in its entirety. They're not tackling the problem head on, except, of course, Nation Media Group. But then they are saying this is a personal problem. Is online harassment really a personal problem, like they say? They say, oh, no, that is Jen being hypersensitive. No, that is Mary being hypersensitive. She can just brush it off. Is online harassment really a personal problem?
No. It's a big N or no.
Indeed.
It's not a personal problem. It is a big problem, and everyone has to raise our attention. Everybody should pay attention to this, because today it's someone else, and then tomorrow it is you. We're seeing young girls come online. These are our daughters, these are our children who are coming online. They are going to face the same problems. And then we have young girls who want to be journalists, but if they are looking at already female journalists who are already on the front line, facing this harassment, facing this violence, then it is a big problem. So we need to tackle these issues. I think we need to move away, because why we sometimes think it's a personal problem, it's because we don't look at the human rights bit of it. We look at the morals. because our African society, the patriarchal society, the imbalanced power relations that we have, you know, usually we look at the morals vis-a-vis the human rights. But it is someone's human right to have their freedom online, to have their freedom, you know, of expression. So it is a big problem, and it's not only a problem of that individual who is being harassed, who is being abused, who is being tortured online. So yeah.
So besides productivity, you know, what are some of the other effects of online harassment on our female journalists or even media workers, if you will?
Well, it is a big problem. One, someone is going to get offline. You know, someone is going to start to censor themselves, start to watch what they are saying, what they are speaking about, what they are posting. They are going to move away. For instance, if a journalist was speaking on a specific topic and it brought a lot of, you know, everyone commenting and abusing them, body shaming and doing all these sort of things. So that means they are going to censor themselves. They are not going to be interested in to investigate further on that topic, on that issue. So that means their professionalism is affected. And then it goes on to family. It goes on, it can break marriages, it can break families. You know, we still have those parents who think it is so wrong for you to have a nude picture of you outside. It is so wrong for you to say certain things. So it affects that. It goes on to their mental health, financially. Sometimes someone is being, it goes on to, it affects their finances. Someone is going to start blackmailing you. You know, I have this content, exactly, pay me money if you don't want this content to go out. So it's a lot, it really affects the female journalists.
And of course, the viewer right now is asking whether or not the laws and policies that we have in Uganda are actually gender sensitive, because we really do have policy, the Computer Misuse Act. So if I do have someone who is actually blackmailing me on the internet in the wake of these policies and laws being existent, what does that mean? That the laws and policies are not gender sensitive?
Well, we have the laws. We have, I could say that Uganda has really quite great, amazing policies and laws, legal framework.
Implementation.
Yes, the implementation bit of it. But again, when we look at, let's say, we have our 1995 Constitution of Uganda, and it really provides, it has progressive provision, you know, for human rights, for freedom of expression, for freedom of association. And we have our access to information. We have the Computer Misuse Act, as we talked about. We have Data Privacy and Protection Act 2019. Yeah. But again, these laws do not have specific provision that protect women's rights online, like protect women against online harassment. If we look at female journalists, yes, it is there. We have these general laws provisions, but we do not have specification that tackle these issues. And then also the implementation bit of it. Usually, there's a gap still with the law enforcers. People do not understand. Even the individuals themselves, even the female journalists themselves, even us as individuals, many people do not know what laws we have. They do not know that it is their human right, actually. And even when someone is being harassed online, sometimes people do not know that that person is infringing on their human rights. So that gap in knowledge also brings in the issue. And then the law enforcers, not all of them know about these laws that we have, and the implementation bit of it. I think these laws are not really monitored because we don't see some of these reports to let us know that, okay, we have this law in place, but this is how it is going, and these are the recommendations that needs to be done, maybe for amendments, for reviews, and this sort of thing. So we still have a gap there.
And indeed, Amoge, we could use Morning at NTV or NMG as that platform through which we could reach out to these female journalists if they do not have the information, and tell them what to do in the event of being sexually or harassed online. What do they do in that event? I'm okay.
So apparently, WOUGNET, with support from Urgent Action Fund, we have a toll-free line that is open for all female journalists. They can call and report some of these incidents that they're having. And also they need to report to the police. They need to embrace reporting, because if someone keeps quiet, then they are going to die slowly. They are moving away from what they should do. They are moving away from meaningfully engaging online. So they need to embrace reporting. And then also they need to speak to someone. Employers, like you said, at media group here, you are looking at that. That is something that you take as seriously. employers need to take this seriously. So it's really a whole holistic approach that needs to be taken, not only as an individual. So civil society organizations need to come up. We have the policy makers that need to come up. We have the media houses. You all need to come out and work together with these journalists who are facing these issues. But also they need to report to the owners of these digital platforms. We have the Facebook. For instance, when we interacted with them, many of them talked about Facebook, talked about Twitter. These are where they receive a lot of harassment on, and they can report these issues to the owners of these social media, the operators. So if the report, you can block this person, you can, and it's really a challenge.
Some are deleting the comments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also, it's really a challenge because you are a journalist. You are there to inform. You are there to educate. You are there to influence.
On your
exactly.
work. Yeah.
So if you're going to focus your life onto blocking everyone, exactly, and limiting your reach,
productivity is going down.
Exactly, productivity is going down. So it's really a challenge. So someone needs to report. Someone needs to like now we have this toll-free, and there are many other civil societies who are working on these related issues that we need to educate really the female journalists and educate the public, because again, Romeo, to just let you know, sometimes these perpetrators do not know that they are actually committing a crime. They actually do not know that they are infringing on someone else's right online. They just think they're making fun. They do not know how much this affects the person that they are commenting and talking about. So we need to create awareness so that even the perpetrators know that, okay, when I do this, I am really infringing on someone else's human right.
And of course, you were telling me that the women are disproportionately affected, but then even the men are affected in some bit. But how affected are the men? How are they affected by online harassment?
Yes, it's really true that men are also affected. And also not only the perpetrators are only not men. We also have perpetrators that are women.
Indeed.
Yes, when you go online, you will also realize that other women are also throwing these mean comments, are also cyber stalking the other, also harassing the other female journalists. So it's not that only female are the ones who face it, or male are the ones who are perpetrators. So men also face online harassment, just like you faced it.
Indeed.
You see, when you go online, you see a wash of men being harassed online. But again, it affects them differently. Men walk away from this sometimes. And then the degree is not the way it would be, the way it would pull, a lot of interest from everybody, So it's true that men also face online harassment.
And in that regard, it is at this opportune moment that we should be talking about some of the resolutions we could birth now to ensure that we do away with online harassment. What are some of those practical strategies that need to be implemented, Oliver, so that we do away with online harassment and at least create a conducive, favorable environment through which the men and the women thrive in this space to disseminate information to the viewers that need it the most?
One, the fact that there's a gap in the knowledge gap, the awareness about this online harassment, what it is, how does it manifest. People need to know about this. We need to create awareness of on online harassment so that people know what it is, where can they report, who can be a target. So we need to create public awareness, and this calls on to everyone. It's not something that let's say WOUGNET or civil society organizations are going to do. It's something that you, the media houses, should do. You, the journalists, you as an individual, me as an individual, need to do. For instance, if I receive, let's say, someone's private pictures, nude pictures, if I might call it, I am not going to forward it. I am not going to push it forward. If I have your information, I am not going to send it to someone else without your consent. So it starts with me as an individual. And then it goes on also, we need to work with the law enforcers. You realize that's really a big gap. When you go to police stations actually to report some of these cases, they feel it is not a big thing. You were harassed online? What's that? They don't see the need. They don't see the point why you think you should call on their attention. Yet they have someone who has been hacked. They have someone who has, physically beaten or something. So they don't see the big effort that needs to be put on online harassment. So we need to educate. We need to build capacity of the law enforcers to understand how deep this is and how how this is also a big threat to human rights. And then we need to work with the policy makers. We need to change some of these policies so that we have provisions that have specific, that really promotes women's rights online, that promotes safety online, so that women are able to interact and use the online platform safely. And then we need to also work with the judiciary. So everyone, we need to have an holistic approach to this and have all the key stakeholders come in, and then use some of the initiatives like what WOUGNET has put the toll-free line.
Do you know what the female journalists are doing right now to avoid so many problems? They're avoiding the subjects that are contentious. If it is politics, they'll avoid it. If it is race, they'll avoid it. If it is education and it's going to cause problems, they'll avoid it. But as a journalist, I'm not supposed to be talking about issues I'm comfortable with. If it's a problem out there and it's affecting people, I should be talking about it. This is the effects we are talking about. The fact that you're going to get into your comfort zone and say, oh, let me talk about a subject that will not bring backfire back to me. That's how bad the situation is, Amoge.
That's very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate.
Picking and choosing.
For someone to pick. For someone to think, okay, if I talk about this issue, everyone is going to bash, everyone is going to backlash and all that. It is not nice at all. That's why we need to tackle these issues so that a journalist will speak up. A journalist will feel free to speak their mind. Someone needs to have freedom of expression.
Indeed, Oliver, there's also a trickle-down effect from the female journalists all the way to the people who are listening to them. That is the viewer. That is the female voter. And do you think the fact that female journalists have not been so involved in the politics of the country here and abroad, could it be the reason as to why we are seeing lesser women, lesser females getting involved in the politics of their countries, simply because there's no one speaking to them? If those in the profession, the female journalists, are shunning the topics, then how am I, as a female voter, going to clamor at the polling station? Is that the reason as to why 8 million women stayed away from the polls in the just concluded election?
Well, it could not be the one reason. There are a number of reasons that contribute to that. But yes, it is a big thing if we do not see our female journalists being out there and being outspoken and saying out their mind and doing what is right. So it is a big thing. I said it before that it affects this young girl.
Freedom of speech.
Exactly. Who wants to grow up and become a journalist, who wants to grow up and speak on some of these issues. It affects them. So it affects people. And again, if you look at it, the people who are very much on the target are people like politicians, female politicians are usually really the target of perpetrators. So these are the people that we look up to. These are the people who need to speak on some of these issues. But at the same time, these are the people who are being pushed behind because of this online violence. So it is a big issue that needs to be tackled.
And of course, you were telling me the problems are following them online and then chasing them up to the offline, on the ground. They are also suffering some kind of harassment. How dire is this situation, the harassment offline?
Yes, that's very true, Romeo, because sometimes it could start as an online thing and then it goes to offline. Or sometimes it could start as an offline thing and then it goes to online. And, you know, for instance, like when someone is doxing you, they are going to get all your personal information and put it online. And your personal information might include where you live, where you work, if that is not known, how old you are, your date of birth, your children, your marital status. These are your personal information that sometimes you don't actually put out. So if this information is out, your security is at a threat. Someone can look out for you and someone can know, okay, Romeo just lives down there near, I don't know where, and then they look out for you.
Indeed.
Just imagine a picture of a house where you live, your street is posted online.
Indeed.
Yeah,
your children, family members.
Exactly, and these are not things that you really put out. So it is a big threat to your personal security. Yeah. So
and we're also getting information that these women are being threatened with rape. If you do not stop chasing this story, we shall rape you. Sexual harassment. How dire is this problem?
Yes, sexual harassment is really on an increase. Actually, when we interacted with the female journalists and when we have a position paper that we published. Anyone who wants to look at it, you can check out on that on our website. It reveals that sexual harassment is one of the top violence that women face, these female journalists face online.
Indeed.
Yes, because then someone starts to first of all, is sending you unsaturated pictures, information, and all that, and then you're threatened. And it can happen. The fact that someone already knows where you are, and it's very easy for someone to get you in the physical where you are, it's very easy for someone to troll you and end up finding you where you are. So yes, it is happening.
And of course, it's really, really dire. Last week on Monday, I was having a conversation with some Americans. We're talking about the issue of racism within the US. It took center stage and it became so ugly. I was telling them about how if you are a black man, you'll be arrested and getting out is actually so hard. But if you are a white person, it will be actually easy for you, for the system to actually help you get off scot-free. And it took only 3 or 4 days, and then Car Rittenhouse was actually released without any charge after shooting 2 protesters in that regard. Then people were saying, oh, so Romeo was right. But then before that, I was levied a barrage of criticism. Stay in Uganda, stay away from politics in America, focus on your own country, this and that and that. Besides that, what is you as WOUGNET, Women of Uganda Network, doing in your capacity, you know, as the NGO to ensure that we create a favorable environment for our female journalists or media workers?
So one thing that we constantly do is digital security training. It is very important because it starts with your personal security. You knowing how you physically take care of your phone, you physically take care of your how do you navigate the different platforms? Do you understand it well? Because I think one of the issues that causes this is also digital illiteracy.
Indeed.
People not being able to use the digital platform correctly or not understanding it at all. So digital security is a skill that everyone needs to have. We need to constantly train on digital security, digital safety. Yeah, so that is something that we do.
Amazing.
On a day-to-day.
Amazing and insightful conversation with Peace Oliver Amoge. She is the ED, Executive Director, if you will, for Uganda, Women of Uganda Network, WOUGNET, if you will. Thank you very much for coming through and shining a light on how online harassment is dampening the resolve of our female journalists to actually go ahead with their careers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming through. And indeed, thank you too for continuing with us right here on Morning at NTV. Another break is in the offing, but we return shortly. Don't go too